We're bringing video to where work happens.
People are understanding how to do AI safely and effectively, and being able to incorporate video into a lot of these various workflows is really just taking things to the next level.
MCP is becoming wildly popular. Now these agents are able to, take your video platform information, run it over the MCP server, and extract real value, in a matter of seconds.
Some of the stuff that we can do with the video that we have in our own tenant is pretty wild.
Video needs to be where the work is done.
The Video at Work podcast.
Everything we do as consumer for the last decade, we do it with video.
Why don't we do it at work?
Welcome to the Video at Work podcast. My name's John Beltrane. I'm the director of the customer success team here at Vbrick.
Hi everyone, I'm Ben Coffinberger. I'm the practice director here at Vbrick.
For those of you that aren't aware, Vbrick is an enterprise video platform aimed at delivering video content both on demand and live streaming for a very large customer base.
Vbrick supports a myriad of industry verticals, including financial services, healthcare, government, education, all sorts of different industry types across the enterprise, mid-market, and small business.
Our team as a whole is primarily responsible for the majority of the relationship that we have with our customers. We focus on things like adoption. We do a lot of use case tracking, which is kind of what's leading us into today's topic, which is going to be trends that we've seen across 2025, as well as things that we're seeing into 2026 across the customer base. It's based off of a lot of data that we have pulled over the past year or two, and we've compiled a comprehensive list of all the different use cases that we've explored with our customers, and we've identified some common threads throughout all of those various activities. So today I think we're pleased to go through sort of what the common themes have been and what we're going to see in 2026 from a strategic initiative perspective.
Great. Let's jump right into it, John. So the first topic that we've got is generative AI. And this is really focused around accessibility and searchability as well. Whether that's an in-platform experience, it helps you, find content easier, and it gives the search context, a lot more data to look at. For example, we see customers, generating titles, tags, descriptions, different languages for subtitles, different languages for audio tracks as well. And, being able to search that content as a user, really helps accessibility and searchability because it can bring the user to the right point of the right video at the right place and the right time.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we've seen a great deal of adoption across the customer base over the past year or so, just on the IQ utilization perspective. And with the introduction of things like metadata generation in bulk, in addition to what we've already done from transcription and translation in the past, we're finding there's a lot more value in the video content that we're now able to extract and expose in a variety of different other workflows that we never could before. So that was definitely a very common thing that we saw. I think we're going to continue to see that as we go forward and advance some of the capabilities that we can do from an AI perspective. It's also going to lead into some more generative opportunities too. It's not just simply about extracting the data, but what do you do with that data? How do you make the content searchable across other platforms using Vbrick as sort of the central repository? That's really going to expand our footprint in terms of where we can access video in the workspace.
Totally agree. And I think one thing that you hit on is, that searchability outside of the platform, right? We're seeing a ton of customers adopt this searchability throughout the applications that they're already in on a day-to-day basis, right? Whether that's, an ITSM platform, a learning and development platform, an intranet, anything of that sort. We're bringing video to where work happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great segue because that sort of takes us into our next component, which is, not only, I know we kind of identify it as ServiceNow everywhere, but I think we're going to see that expand even beyond ServiceNow. But we've seen a ton of customers that are interested in ITSM flows, helping to drive quicker time to resolution on IT support cases. We've seen it with the HR portals in ServiceNow. Employee Center, we've seen a great deal of expansion and people really streamlining what the employee experience is on the employee portals by leveraging video, which they didn't do before. We're seeing that even carry over into some of the portal contests at ServiceNow's Knowledge Conference, which is really cool. And now we're even starting to see it in Now Assist too. So not only is Vbrick video searchable inside of Vbrick, we're starting to expose it in other places that people are doing work. And I suspect that we're going to see that go beyond just ServiceNow into the future.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. And I think, the enterprise customer base has really gotten over the whole scare of AI that we initially saw a couple of years ago, where, enterprises were sort of hesitant to turn it on for various reasons. And now that we've sort of gotten over that hump and every application is, using generative AI and into its workflows, that searchability is just expanding into all of the platforms. Like you said, people are coming, to Now Assist, and they're letting the agents or the LLMs do the work for them, right? And giving it a query or a prompt and then returning, rich metadata about a video is just the future. It's imperative, right? As we've always said, there's a ton of value trapped in your video, and the only way to extract that value is necessarily watching it, right? But we can use generative AI and platforms like ServiceNow to, deliver that content, make it searchable and accessible to, any employee across the globe.
I mean, it's interesting because I feel like we sort of started down this path of generative AI probably 12, 18 months ago. And the initial reaction, a lot of people were like, yeah, that's really cool. But we're still like trying to determine what is our AI posture? What does it look like to implement AI inside of the enterprise? And it's certainly been a challenge. And it's something that we've been working on with customers for, like I said, the past year and a half. So it's something that we're finally starting to see come to fruition. People are understanding how to do AI safely and effectively. And being able to incorporate video into a lot of these various workflows is really just taking things to the next level. Some of the simplest use cases out there that we've seen are being able to swap out KB articles for video embeds. That in and of itself can lend itself to a lot more self-service type of activity and probably a reduction in the overall number of tickets that are coming through. I think the really cool thing there is as we start to be able to factor in things like case deflection, there's hard costs associated with that, and we can actually drive a hard ROI, which I think that's going to be really impactful in being able to drive value at the businesses. So I'm really excited that we're finally starting to see that come to the forefront. Again, you and I have seen it firsthand. It's been a long time coming, but we're finally seeing that out in the field today.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, the ROI piece that you bring up. Video is really bringing a measurable value to the operational costs inside of businesses, right? You think about kind of how far we've come from, somebody calling a landline to, ask for help to, going online. Even online seems like sort of old school at the moment, right? And they're leveraging these, applications and LLMs to get their answer and get their help. And, when you don't have, hard bodies, like you said, you're immediately seeing cost savings and driving, faster time to value for your end users, for your employees, for anyone who interacts with you. And I think it's also important, to remember that, delivering that content effectively inside your corporate firewall is really important, which sort of leads us to our next topic of, customers are really consolidating their architecture and modernizing video delivery, specifically, behind the firewall, using peer-to-peer technologies and less hardware as we move forward.
Yeah, 100%. We've seen a huge shift in there of customers driving a more modern approach when it comes to the distribution side of things. So, not only for video on demand content, a lot of that's going to be edge caching and using DME technology, but we've seen on the live streaming side, sort of a shift. I know historically a lot of our customers were using multicast. We've seen a lot of those customers start to shift the narrative into more of a peer-to-peer model, which it's a heck of a lot easier. There's a lot less overhead. They don't have to worry about agent deployment. Configuration-wise, it takes a lot less time than anything they've been used to before. And we've started to see more and more of these really large enterprises really adopt peer-to-peer as their preferred method of distribution. We have some customers that have started doing large-scale events with 50 to 55,000 people using purely peer-to-peer. That's not something we ever would have said probably 2.5 years ago. So that's a major shift and a testament to how well the technology is working. So that's been really exciting. I think we've got some other cool stuff on the ECDN front that we're going to see this year too.
Yeah, I agree. And, back to our sort of ROI statement with ServiceNow and generative AI and so forth, this also kind of goes into, modernizing that video delivery. We've had several of our customers tell us that, getting rid of the on-premise edge cache servers, has saved them operational costs, into the thousands as they scale. And, it's really interesting, not only from, the savings perspective, but also the, management perspective that you mentioned before, especially around multicast. There's, an agent typically required for something like that. There's certificates that go to that agent. A lot of operational expenses and resources required to maintain and manage that effectively. With the peering shift, it's an initial workload to sort of clean up your environment and, get everything tested. But, we've seen, kind of like you said, that's been super effective in scaling to numbers that we didn't think were, necessarily possible a couple of years ago on an all agentless peering environment. And I think, customers are considering doing that, due to various reasons, because the work environment has changed, as we've also seen over the last couple of years, where employees are not always in the office, and when they are, they're moving around, right? They're going on their phones, then they're switching to their laptop, then they might go in a conference room, right? These access points need to be accessible to the video platform so that you're constantly giving the user a good experience.
Yeah. I mean, I think another nice thing when it comes to the, especially on the peer-to-peer side, and as we start to dig in more on the analytics front, because I know that's another key topic that we had identified that had come up with the customer base. We can see pure bandwidth savings on the ECDN front too. So maybe not a true ROI necessarily, but we can see that we're saving the network a tremendous amount of bandwidth by implementing these technologies, and it's not super difficult to do, which has been really cool. And here in the next week or so, we're going to see even more advances on the analytics front that are going to drive some strategic initiatives, I think, around how we're thinking about distribution and how we do zoning and those kinds of things. So I don't know if you want to touch on maybe a little sneak peek of what we've got coming in the next release, but there's some really powerful analytics that we're going to see in the very short term.
Yeah, I think you hit it spot on, right? Analytics are powerful. Numbers don't lie, right? And while there might not be a direct ROI measurement, it really helps convey the message of what's improving overall with the video delivery. And to your point, we're super excited to roll out our geo analytics, right? And provide users with a nice little map of the world that shows kind of where their users are joining from, giving all sorts of attributes about those users' experience, so that they can, effectively go to their leadership and say, hey, we had a very tremendously successful event. We did it at significant scale. And, we had less than 1% of total users, who had issues, right? So it's effectively validating this shift in modernizing their architecture through real data in real time. And let's not forget that this data is also transferable into other systems at work. Like we sort of talked about earlier, is these analytics are powered by our APIs, right? And, people use Power BI, they use other business intelligence platforms to drive that data to, various dashboards, other applications, and, really make it known throughout the networking team, the security team, the executive team, right? How well these large scale video delivery events are performing.
That's definitely a good point, because once you get all that data out there, I mean, there's endless possibilities with what you can do with it. That's kind of the beauty of these BI tools that are out there, whether it's Power BI, Tableau, what have you. I mean, I know we've talked with some customers that are looking at doing like executive level dashboards so people can see what the performance metrics look like for their events. They can do cross-event analysis much more easily than before. And I think getting back to the topic of AI in general, we're also starting to see more of a shift and adoption on the MCP front.
Yes.
Which I think is really where we're going to see a tremendous amount of value. I mean, you and I personally have been playing around with our local MCP running on Claude, and some of the stuff that we can do with the video that we have in our own tenant is pretty wild. I mean, Ben and I have gotten to the point where we've created HTML landing pages with videos embedded in a matter of seconds. Neither one of us are coders. We never could have done that on our own, but Claude can do it for us. So not only can it do some of those tasks, it can also dig into analytics. I mean, I've had it pull reports to show me what are some of the most effective videos that I've run, what's getting the highest viewership. I can dig into transcript context, understand what the videos are that are being discussed. And it just gives me a heck of a lot more capability when it comes to what I want to do with the video content that's out there. And it's going to open the doors as we move into more of a remote MCP stance of being able to dig into other platforms that might be implemented at the enterprise so that video can be surfaced pretty much everywhere. I don't know what your thoughts are on the AI front in MCP, but there's a ton of value there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, MCP is becoming wildly popular, right? And, we think about how fast and rapid, users adopted these agents like Claude and ChatGPT and Copilot, right? Now these agents are able to, take your video platform information, run it over the MCP server, and extract real value, in a matter of seconds, right? And do things that nobody thought they could do if you're not a software engineer, for example. And I think these AI search connectors, kind of go back to our earlier statement of generative AI, because extracting that value as sort of the first step is going to only inherently make those MCP server connections way better, right? Because you have all of that metadata accessible, right? And if you think back to a couple of years ago, right, you might have had the title, you might have had the uploader, some basic information. Now you have tags, chapters, right? All sorts of metadata that can help the MCP server, effectively drive the best result.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think now is probably a good time to shift topics a little bit, moving a little bit away from AI, but getting into more of the content governance side of things and content lifecycle. I know another common theme that we saw across the base, and I think we're going to continue to see because we're having conversations pretty much every day about retention policies. Those have become a really, really big thing where customers are starting to have mandates from their legal teams where they can only store content for a period of time. So we've been starting to see a lot of custom implementations of how we should manage that. So I don't know if you've got any good examples you want to talk about that you've seen in your base, but it's definitely been a common theme for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we see customers who are, effectively driving this change from the governance and legal side, and they're doing it all in different ways, I would say. But some of the commonalities that I see is, protecting the data, keeping it fresh, and deciding on specific rules so that everything can be automated, right? They sort of want to set the policy and sort of forget about it for a time period. And it's hard to do with video, right? Because you have employees all over the globe who have ownership of these videos, right? But video becomes stale rather quickly these days. And you want to keep content fresh. And, not to say that, video is expensive to store, right? Because it's so large. We're not talking about kilobytes anymore. We're talking about terabytes, right? And some of the common themes I certainly see among the customer base is setting rules. For example, if no one watches the video after X period of days, then the video may go into an archived state for a period of time, and then a copy of the video would be downloaded onto a secure server. And then after another period of time, that video would be ultimately deleted, right? But it's having that auditable, traceable, documented record of all of the steps on how you destroyed the content or how you maintained the content, that it's becoming, more and more imperative at significant scale when, these customers are future looking into petabytes worth of data.
Yeah, I know right now we've seen a lot of similar types of setups when it comes to those retention policies. When you think of the grand scheme of things, there's probably a level of basicness to them. As we move forward in developing a lot of these more generative AI types of capabilities, I think we're going to see that carry over into these retention policies, approval workflows, and all that good stuff. As we start to move into more of a multimodal type of scenario, I think we're going to see layers added on to what we've already implemented. So while we have these sort of, I guess you could call them basic workflows in place for retention today, they're going to become much more complex as we move into the future. And with all the different things that we can do with video from an AI perspective, it's going to make them much, much more powerful, I think, in the future.
Yeah, and I think enterprises should be concerned about this, and be proactive about it in the sense of, what do we have recorded? Who is it recorded by? Who's speaking in it? What was said, right? How long has it been on here? All sorts of things to think about when you're going through this governance cycle. And to your point, some of the challenge that we've seen is, the policy and the governance might seem like sort of an easy decision on paper, but then actually implementing that, I think, is drastically hard because, you have employees all over the globe who are used to, sort of keeping everything. And then when you start saying, hey, your videos have to be deleted, that change can be really difficult for them at scale. And I think, people want to, not only maintain their data, but also know that it's being destroyed in an effective manner.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see some of the reactions from employees at these customers as they start to implement them. Because, there are certainly situations where we see moments of panic and people saying, "Where's my content going?" So it's a bit of a difference or a different shift in the way that things are operating for the customers, but it's important. A lot of these customers have legal obligations to purge stuff after a period of time. So we got to make sure compliance is top of mind, given sort of our security posture too. We want to make sure that all of that lines up with the overall strategy of the customer that we're dealing with.
Let's shift gears a little bit further here. One topic that really interested me is sort of this last mile reach approach with digital signage, right? We have less and less employees coming into the office nowadays. And, more employees are busier than ever when they're at the office, right? So I think one interesting thing that we found through this customer data is a new use case that seems like a traditional thing, but it's just rapidly exploding nowadays. And that's, serving video on your digital signage platforms inside your office. And it's sort of like this last mile reach approach where, employees are walking into the building. They may see something on a screen that interests them. They may join their colleague in a conference room or in the kitchen and, be able to watch a live broadcast or watch a looping video that might inform them of something that they weren't aware of before. So what are your thoughts on, this whole shift back to digital signage, call it, and, what are you seeing with our customers as well?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because it seems like it's kind of a legacy type of technology. You and I see it every day. We come into the office, we got digital signage at the front that's it's looping VOD. And that's a great use case. I mean, it's interesting to see how rapidly it's starting to come back into the fold with customers now. And it's a fairly simple use case to knock off. I mean, you've got all the video content already in your repository. You can easily create playlists that can be set to a loop on these digital signage displays that are going to deliver really important messages. I mean, we've seen some hospitals that are starting to use digital signage that are giving out information to people that are walking through the halls of the facility, simply using digital signage and what they have with us today. I think we could even see it in manufacturing use cases down the road where we're offering up training content and things that will help keep people safe. So they could have lasting impacts, but it is kind of cool to see not only the VOD use case, but also on the live webcast side. Because I know I've seen some customers that they'll use that digital signage approach to get people to group together when they are in the office and watch those CEO town halls. And that's a really good way to get people to kind of collaborate when they are in the office as we sort of shift back into more of that as we go forward. I know more and more customers are starting to get back into the office. I know it's taken, 5 years at this point, but we're just sort of trending in that direction. And that can help from an employee engagement and employee satisfaction perspective too, just getting people together for the commonality of hitting on that one task of watching the CEO address the entire company. So it's, yeah, I mean, it's starting to take off. I'm kind of surprised that it came back as rapidly as it did, but that's been a fun one to explore for sure.
Yeah, and it's certainly advanced as far as, reaching people that might be hearing impaired or speak another language, right? Because with all of this automation and AI in place now, we see our customers doing, live transcription, live translation, all sorts of things to, reach their global audience at scale during their live events. And, this is translating directly into the digital signage. And you imagine if English is not your first language, you come in and, the audio is muted, but you're able to read those captions, right, in real time in your language. Mm-hmm. So it's really just helping drive an effective video strategy across the board.
Yeah, I mean, accessibility has become such a big thing. And we've seen a lot of advances on our side with some of the work we've done in terms of leveraging some outside parties to make sure that our accessibility is up to date too. But it's becoming more and more commonplace that customers have a mandate that they have to hit certain accessibility requirements. Digital signage is a good way to do that. And especially if you're using us for transcription and translation and all those things, it can be really impactful for the employee base. Shifting into our last topic, I think, is the getting into some of the training and LMS integrations. I know we introduced some really great capabilities in 2025 that is sort of leading the charge and as to why we're starting to see more and more of this come up. But what are you seeing in the field when it comes to training, specifically LMS integration? Yeah,
I think this is another sort of legacy use case that is booming now, right? And coming back because a lot of people need to, take their security training, take their onboarding, right? And so what Vbrick has done is taken the sort of the agnostic approach and allowed its users to download any Vbrick video as a SCORM package. And this SCORM package is a sort of a agnostic protocol that goes into a learning management system. And, these L&D teams are able to, host, maintain, and govern their video while also deliver that into a traditional training setting to their users. And users have sort of just expected it to become better, right? They expect the video to be in their language, right? They expect the video to be of quality and informative, right? You think about the old sort of just talking heads. Now we've got avatars, we've got different audio tracks, we've got different learning systems, we've got different use cases, right? And we're not just seeing, traditional onboarding or security training, right? We're seeing all sorts of different types of use cases in the learning management space. And, it's being delivered in, platforms where people are already working, kind of like we talked about before. It's in ServiceNow, right? It's in, SuccessFactors. It's in all of the applications that we're using today. And little to the user's knowledge, it's all being maintained in a very nice enterprise video platform that allows for all of these capabilities to be to deliver video at scale.
Yeah, and I mean it gets tied back into the analytics too. So I mean the owner of all the video content's got the knowledge of where the video is being consumed, whether it is from an LMS. I mean, we're calling that out very specifically. So I think historically we've seen a lot of LMS use cases where people were really just linking to Vbrick video. Now it's all completely native in their LMS platform, and we're doing all the analytics tracking for the views and all that good stuff, while also giving people granular control in terms of determining what is a completion when it comes to the LMS side of things, and do we want to limit whether or not people can even change playback speed and things like that. So it's interesting to see that one kind of come back around, but it's definitely been useful having that new SCORM integration, and it's opening the doors to bringing new people into the platform that were never there before.
Exactly. Because
we've introduced new roles that are specifically tied to LMS.
Yeah, I mean, we can bring platform users on with literally no other, elevated rights other than to sort of upload their videos and export them as SCORM packages, which is exactly what our customers are looking for. And, one thing that's sort of interesting is, going back to our APIs, is they're able to, bring all of this completion data, watch history, into all of their other applications via API, and be able to measure the effectiveness of their training programs, and be able to report on that at an executive level to just show that, hey, delivering video to our employees is effective, and we know that it works because we have all of this great stuff behind us to support us.
Yeah, I mean, it's really nice being on our side of the fence because we really get to see the pervasiveness of video across the enterprise, and we get to watch the adoption continue to grow. And as we go forward, we're going to continue as a team on the customer success side. We'll keep tracking all of these different use cases. We're going to document them. We're going to continue to analyze what those trends look like. And obviously, we're expecting that it's going to align with what our product strategy looks like as we move into the future. So I think today's conversation has been really, really useful. It's nice to be able to talk about some of the things that we've seen over the course of history and what we're seeing for the future, because I think we're going to see more and more of this happen. And it's an exciting time to be in the video space, quite frankly. I don't know if there's anything you have to add, Ben.
No, I'm just super excited. I think we're in rapid accelerating times, and we're going to continue to measure what sort of use cases come back into the mix and which ones go out rather quickly. So I'm excited to see what comes ahead.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you all for watching this episode of Video at Work, and we'll catch you on the next one.